Chapter 24. Walkabout. 3 days had passed since Ares accepted the elder's request to undertake a walkabout. Over that time he devoted nearly every moment to learning about the local terrain and heeding advice from a nearby mob. Having learnt about walkabout and what it entailed, Ares now knew he would be sent into the Kulin Plains with nothing, no tools, no supplies, just himself. Surviving for 2 weeks would secure the elder's respect. Failing would be fatal. On the morning of his departure, Ares, Nora and Theron arrived again at Gumbuya. This time, the path from their anchored ship felt marginally more familiar. The group carried a heavy resolve. Once at Gumbuya, they found the community in a livelier state than before. More people, more celebrations, and a current of anticipation wove through the gathering. Locals greeted the trio warmly, seeing Ares' imminent challenge as a bold act of devotion and sincerity. Before he could fully understand the bustle around him, Nora stopped him to recite one last piece of wisdom. "Walk me through the order again," she said calmly. "Shelter first," he repeated. "Right, then what?" "Next is finding a water source," Ares continued. "Yes, then?" "Then craft a spear and look for food," he concluded. Nora gave a small nod of approval. "And how will you start a fire?" "Using twigs and dry bark," Ares answered, as if sitting an exam. "If you're starving and forced to eat berries, remember these." Nora opened her palm, revealing a specific red berry. "Stick to this kind." Ares exhaled slowly. "I will try." They proceeded together until they reached a ceremonial assembly. The elders who had spoken with Ares 3 days prior stood with 5 young men, each possibly between 15 and 18 years old. Ares felt a fleeting pang of discomfort that he, a grown man well-travelled and experienced, might struggle under the same trial as these younger locals. Though in truth, their challenge would last 2 months to his mere 2 weeks. "Ares, are you joining the walkabout?" one elder asked. He nodded. "I am." "Then come here with nothing," the elder instructed. "Say your farewells and come forward." Theron turned to Ares. "It's only 2 weeks. You can manage this." In response, Ares removed every belonging and was left clad in just his clothes. He handed the artifact to Captain Theron. "Please guard it until I return." Theron pressed a hand to the artifact. "I'll keep it safe. You have my word." "I wish you good fortune," Nora added quietly. A grateful nod was Ares' only reply as he joined the elders. One introduced him to a boy named Jara, who would be tested alongside the others. "When you go out there," the elder said, "you don't aid each other. You find your own place in the Kulin Flats, live off the land, and return after 2 months. That's how these 5 prove themselves. Though for you, 2 weeks is all we ask." Jara offered Ares a guarded look. "Remember, to remain vigilant and mindful of the purpose of the experience that lies before you. Stay connected, and your passage will be safe." The sudden resonant sound of a didgeridoo rang out across the plains. It signalled the departure of the gathered men. The 5 young men each chose a direction and slipped away into the wilderness. Ares lagged behind. He turned back to the elders with one final remark. "When I return, I expect the answers I seek." An elder's voice answered, "Perhaps you'll find answers out there as well. Do not focus on your return and remain attuned to the earth." He gestured to the wilderness beyond. Glancing over his shoulder, Ares cast a quick look at Nora and Theron. Then he vanished into the brush alone. Hours of walking carried Ares deeper into a forest of red gum trees. The midday heat blazed overhead, weaving through sparse leaves to pierce the forest floor below. He surveyed the sky, guessing he had about 6 hours of daylight left. He maintained a steady, purposeful stride. As he moved through the unfamiliar landscape, Ares took note of his surroundings. He came upon a family of kangaroos. The father, larger and greyer than the rest, paused to consider Ares up before deeming him no threat. They returned to feeding. Ares merely offered them a faint smile. Soon after, the rush of running water quickened his pace. He discovered a narrow stream coursing through a small clearing. Kneeling beside it, he cupped his hands, drinking his fill. "All right," he murmured. "Water source found. Shelters next." Yet a sweep of his surroundings revealed only a scattering of fallen branches from nearby gums. He dragged the wood over and started building a simple leaning shelter. The night soon draped the land in shadow. Unable to spark a fire, he sat in utter darkness. The sky was invisible through the thick canopy, and the forest creatures stirred in a chorus of eerie calls. Ares had little idea what lurked beyond his meagre shelter. That night, Ares' mind raced. He kept thinking of the artifact. He was so used to having it on his person. Knowing it was far away kept an uneasy feeling stirring in his stomach. He knew he had to let go of it, the weight it carried, but he couldn't. Not yet, at least. Morning dawned bright, bringing day 2. Ares devoted hours to crafting a spear. Using a stone at the creek's edge, he whittled a branch to a sharp tip. Then again, he attempted to spark a flame, but without success. By day's end, hunger gnawed at him, and with no options left, he lapsed into fitful sleep. Waking to birdsong on day 3, Ares felt weaker, more desperate. After weaving a fishing net from shreds of his shirt, he spent another afternoon trying and failing to coax flame from twigs. When he finally heard thrashing in the river, he discovered a fish trapped in his makeshift net. Relief flared inside him. He flung it onto the riverbank and killed it quickly. Yet with no fire, the raw fish was all he had. Eaten by starlight, it served as his first real meal in days. As the 4th morning arrived, Ares' body had grown exhausted and malnourished. No sooner had he begun his spear-sharpening routine than he heard footsteps on the dried brush. Snapping awake, he grabbed the spear and braced for a threat, only to discover Jara emerging from the green haze of the forest. "You built a shelter but still no fire?" Jara's tone was puzzled. "I could not manage one," Ares said. He heard his own voice quiver with fatigue. "3 nights trying and nothing." Jara shrugged. "I can't help. Assisting you would tarnish my walkabout." "Of course," Ares agreed. "I wouldn't ask you to." Jara eyed the sticks Ares had been using. "You picked the wrong wood. If friction is your plan, you need a different kind." Then, with a small nod of encouragement, perhaps pity, he turned and vanished back into the forest, leaving Ares silent and shrouded by the rustling leaves. "I've used all different sorts of wood. Which one should I use?" Ares shouted to him as he walked away. Ares moved after him. Jara gestured toward a tree in the distance. The bark hung in long strips from its trunk. "That one," he said simply as he walked over to it. Jara peeled away 2 pieces. Within minutes he ignited a small flame, leaving Ares speechless at his own lack of success. Then Jara quickly buried the fire beneath damp earth, snuffing out the flames entirely. Ares felt a hollow pang in his chest. He realized he'd need to accomplish this himself. "You shouldn't stay crouched here, acting like a solitary creature on the forest floor," Jara explained. He turned to Ares with steady resolve. "You're more than that. The animals need to see you as a presence, not something lurking apart from them." "I'm trying," Ares admitted. "I just thought I needed to build a camp before I could survive." Jara studied him with calm sincerity. "Are you here to survive, or would you rather thrive?" he asked. Ares hesitated, never having considered thriving in such a harsh landscape. He had instinctively tried to replicate the sort of living he knew, constructing a shelter and seeking comfort rather than living as the locals did. "What do you suggest I do?" he asked. Jara tapped Ares' spear lightly. "Gather what you truly need. Go out and connect with the land. Make your presence known. The land will respect you for it." Jara turned away and disappeared into the distant brush. "Maybe I'll see you again. Good luck, Ares," he called as he left. Ares remained still. His thoughts were racing. Eventually, he picked up bark from the same tree Jara had used and carried it back to his makeshift shelter. Though it demanded a grueling effort, at last he managed to spark his first fire. Relief flickered across his face as a gentle flame crackled at his side. That evening brought further fortune. Ares caught a fish in the net he'd fashioned. Settling near the flowing river, he roasted his meal over the fire's glow, quietly reflecting on Jara's words. Maybe he'd misunderstood the purpose of Walkabout. Perhaps instead of imposing his own routines on a land he barely knew, he should let himself wander and discover. He resolved that tomorrow he would do just that. True to his plan, Ares awoke to the 5th day with renewed vigour and excitement. Sharp orange light glimmered across the dry scrub, heralding another day of punishing heat. He hadn't realised yet, but he had not thought of the artifact all morning. After cooking and eating a small fish for breakfast, he collected the bark scraps and netting, then set off. Spear in hand, he roamed into the open plains of the Kulin Basin. Behind him, smoke curled lazily from Gumbuya's fires. Ahead, the hazy forms of the Yuyang Mountains beckoned from the horizon. He passed a dozing koala clinging to a eucalypt, pausing briefly to marvel at such unique wildlife. Nora had told him that over 80% of the flora and fauna here was found nowhere else on Earth. Further on, he spotted Jara effortlessly butchering a kangaroo. This land's challenges seemed to flow around Jara like a second skin, while Ares, still an outsider, skirted wide to avoid intruding. He inadvertently snapped a twig, causing Jara to glance up. They exchanged a slight nod before Ares pressed onward. Late that day, with only a handful of berries to sustain him, Ares made camp in a grassy clearing. The dying sun bathed the sky in reds and golds, then sank behind the distant Yuyang Mountains. For the first time, building a fire came almost easily to him. Sitting beside its warmth, Ares gazed at the moonless sky. A sense of ease washed over him. He hadn't dwelt on the artifact since leaving Gumbuya. Hunger and survival had taken priority, pushing worldly burdens aside. With that relief came reflection. He considered how important people truly were to him, while the possessions he'd once carried were now scarcely a thought. In this raw, primitive state, memory filled the void. Images of friends, of family, and most powerfully, of Lyra and the deep affection he'd once felt. The artifact was gone from memory. Its significance to Ares was acknowledged. However, he wasn't prepared to waste his life obsessing over it any longer. It had nearly killed him. The following days brought improvement to Ares' routine. Each morning he trekked farther, fished or foraged for food, then made a fresh camp before dusk. By the 10th day, the motions felt natural. He was stronger, more capable, enough to attempt hunting a kangaroo. A new contentment blossomed within him. Each dawn was met with cautious excitement. Come the 10th evening, Ares reclined by the flames of a fire, kindled with confidence and skill, roasting kangaroo meat carefully until well cooked. When a branch snapped, he leapt up with his spear in hand. Relief flooded him when he realized the intruder was only Jara. Ares couldn't hide his joy. Seeing another person after so long felt almost overwhelming. Jara, he greeted as he lowered his spear. You're doing well, Jara remarked. A faint smile crossed his lips. Not starving anymore, I see. Ares nodded. How are you? Jara shrugged. He took a seat on a nearby rock with Ares' Bekiya permission. For us, these 2 months revolve around patience and learning from mistakes. Ares glanced at the cooked meat. I'd offer you some, but I know you can't accept it. Don't worry, I ate not long ago. Keep it, Jara assured him, as he smiled faintly, sitting beside Ares on a collapsed tree. My father told me you came on this walkabout to prove yourself, to be trusted. Ares exhaled. I did. Maybe it can save the world. It is difficult to explain. Jara paused as he weighed the significance. Has your mind started to catch up with you? It usually does out here. My thoughts drift in and out, Ares admitted. Mostly it's just loneliness. Jara looked sympathetic. Your mind will move past that in time. This way of living digs deep into you. Eventually, you'll reach the bottom. Ares' voice felt suddenly tight. I hope I am strong enough. There's no adversity the universe gives us that we can't endure, Jara said. Even if it looks insurmountable, if it's in your path, you have what it takes. Ares reflected on Lyra, how he missed her, how he longed for her presence. Yet, here and now, He could only watch the embers flicker under the southern land sky and wonder how much more of himself the Kulin plains would reveal. "The constellations are different here. I don't recognize any of them," he told Jara. "Perhaps to you, for me, they remind me of home." He grins. "What happens when you die?" Ares asked Jara. The directness betrayed how much his social graces had dulled in isolation. Jara paused, taking in the question. "In these lands, death is simply part of a larger cycle. A person's spirit returns to the dreaming." "The dreaming?" Ares echoed. Curiosity lit his eyes. "It's everything," Jara said softly. "A vast network of knowledge, beliefs, and practices that shape our entire way of life. It's where we go when we're no longer in this world." Ares nodded thoughtfully. He recalled how different people across the world viewed death. "So when you die, you will go to the dreaming?" Jara's voice remained calm. "Yes, that's where my ancestors are, where everyone goes. This life is only a single piece of something much bigger. Some groups here also believe that a person's spirit returns to the ancestral land where they belong. We see the landscape itself as alive with ancestral beings, and once you die, you become part of that spiritual network, guiding the living from within nature." Ares gazed upward at the star-soaked sky, thinking of Lyra. "It's comforting to believe the ones who came before still watch over us." Jara smiled faintly. "They always have, and always will." "I appreciate you coming back," Ares said, "even though you're on your own walkabout." Jara shrugged lightly. "I helped because I trust that you mean well. If you were lying about your cause, this land would have swallowed you whole by now." "You believe me?" Ares asked. "I believe you're sincere, and if your intentions truly serve the greater good, no one here will stand in your way. It's day 10, you have 4 left. I won't see you again. Good luck." Jara vanished into the dark brush, leaving Ares alone by his fire. As he stared into the embers, Ares thought of Lyra once more. If she existed somewhere in the cosmos, he hoped she might still guide him, as Jara believed ancestors guided the living. Over the final 4 days, Ares perfected his routines in the bush. Each dawn felt more welcome, each night a reminder of how far he'd come. When the morning sun rose on the 14th day, he quietly gathered his belongings, a spear, netting, and a few carefully chosen scraps of bark, and started the trek back to Gumbuya. Despite relishing the return to civilization, Ares felt a pang of sadness as he left behind the little shelter he had built. He realized he would likely never return to it or live quite this way again. Nevertheless, he was grateful for the cleansing solitude and for the changes he sensed in himself. The regrets he once carried felt lighter now. Approaching Gumbuya, Ares heard music and chatter drifting on the breeze. Emerging from the scrub, he spotted Nora and Theron waiting among the crowd. Relief and pride mingled on their faces as they rushed forward to greet him. Cheers rose from onlookers, who saw Ares' key survival as a testament to his sincerity. Theron clapped him on the shoulder. "Glad you made it. Saves me from explaining to Atheros how I let his friend get himself killed." Nora beamed. "We're so glad you're safe, Ares." Ares exhaled a long breath. "That was one of the most transformative experiences of my life." An elder, Jara's father, approached. "The land tested you, and it returned you in good health. You've earned our trust." Ares bowed his head slightly in respect. "Thank you. May I ask for the knowledge I seek now?" "Come." The elder nodded as he led Ares into a private hut. Theron held out a pouch to Ares before he entered. "Your artifact, safe as promised," he said, smiling with relief. Ares accepted it with a grateful nod, then followed the elder inside. They sat. The elder's gaze lingered on Ares with newfound esteem. "The artifact you carry was forged in the last golden age, a unique creation by the Anunnaki, an older civilization lost during that cataclysm. It's why its design and technology feel so foreign. It was part of a greater machine, a system once called Eridu Namu, or Gift of Creation. From the stories we preserve, it helped harmonize the earth. Those in control of Eridunamu could shift the planet's vibrational frequency on a vast scale. Ares studied the artifact with renewed awe. We have a similar use for frequencies in Egypt. However, this artifact seems to be utilizing them on a larger, more powerful scale. Yes, quite. We Southern Lands people don't fully grasp how it was misused if it was. We were left relatively untouched last time the world was brought to its knees. The elder spread his hands. Your device is crucial but also dangerous. Whoever wields it can remake or unmake the world. A silence fell. Ares clenched the artifact carefully. Then it's best I make sure it never falls into the wrong hands. The elder nodded gravely. Be mindful. This technology has drawn darkness before, and it may do so again. Since you have earned the land's respect, we trust that you too mean no harm. Ares nodded. I'll return to Cairo, then onward to Eden. I'll see to it that this artifact is secured or destroyed, if need be. Perhaps Eden is safest. Nonetheless, we wanted you to truly understand its potential before you left. The elder placed a hand on Ares' shoulder. May the land guide your steps. And remember, living in harmony demands as little as possible from the earth, yet offers so much in return. I do hope you learnt that lesson during Walkabout. I learnt a lot more than I expected. Thank you again, Elder, he affirmed. Ares rose from his seat and stepped out of the tent. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the settlement. Though he still carried unanswered questions about Eridunamu, one truth was clear. He must return to Cairo first to inform the Brotherhood and the Pharaoh of what he had learned before venturing on toward Eden in the highlands of India. Are we ready to depart? He asked Theron softly. We are, Captain Theron confirmed. The ship's prepared. Did you find what you were looking for? Not everything, Ares admitted, but I know where I need to go next. Nora looked at him with curiosity. Where is that? Cairo first, he replied, then Eden. As they left the bustling Gumbuya, the three slipped back into the serene hush of the forest. Rays of warm light filtered through tall gum trees, highlighting the dusty red of their bark. Ares remembered the 2 weeks of solitude he had spent in this land, how it stripped away his worries and replaced them with clarity. He inhaled deeply, letting the earthy scent fill his lungs. Ares savoured the peace of these final steps before the wide world beckoned once more. At the dock, the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the southern lands in a tapestry of orange and crimson. Eucalyptus trees whispered in the breeze, seeming to wave him goodbye. Ares stood at the water's edge, his heart weighted by both gratitude and longing. His walkabout had grounded him, offering lessons that would guide him in whatever trials lay ahead. Captain Theron approached, his boots echoed on the boards. The sea serpent is ready to set sail, Ares. Storms await us on the northern seas. Are you prepared? Ares glanced at the artifact secured under his cloak, its power and significance filling him with renewed responsibility. I am, he said with a steady voice. I'll face whatever comes. In the waning light, the sea serpent's sails caught the evening breeze. The ship rocked gently from the harbour. Ares watched the distant tree line sway as though in farewell. The land's timeless majesty was already calling him back. He would not stay. Ahead, Cairo waited, an urgent call to share all he had learnt, to warn of the dangers hidden in both knowledge and ignorance. At last, the ship pulled away from the dock. Theron took the helm and commenced guiding them into the open water. Starlight began to sparkle across the sky as the southern lands receded, leaving Ares with memories of quiet nights beneath ancient trees and of lessons learned in raw solitude. He was reminded of a world worth saving. The journey north had begun.